know, they say Marines work out every day, right? I got out 3 years ago. I'm a long way from Athlete of the Year. I was actually, if we could get the lights up, that would be great. I was speaking with some folks earlier, because, you know, I've been walking around the last couple days, and inevitably, I would get this one. And just this morning, as a matter of fact, wow, I love your jumpsuit. That is so cute. You're a pilot. I said, yes, ma'am, I'm a pilot. Wow, that's so, Air Force, right? No, Marine Corps. It's like, Marines. Wow, Marines are pretty tough. Like, don't get me wrong or anything, but you're a woman. You're black. Did you have any obstacles? And I kind of chuckle as well. But what I come back with is, you know what? Everyone has obstacles. Even the average white guy has obstacles, right? He's a co-chair for this conference, so you all did a phenomenal job. You know, 8 months out, and you've already started planning for next year. So with 8 months coming up to this, I just have to say you all did a phenomenal job. And to the committee, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Because one of the main reasons why we're here is to create breakthroughs, to create that stellar IT, or take IT stellar for the federal government. And I truly believe that it's that breakthrough mentality, a breakthrough mentality, no matter what we have to do, break down, break up, break through, break free, to get to that other side where we really want to be. And one of those situations, and I just want to have a conversation with you here today. I know we're at the end of the conference, and we've gotten some great things, ideas, best practices going on. And I shouldn't even say conference, it's a summit. And one of the summits I went to last year, the facilitator said, you know, we're coming together. This is not a conference. You're not just going to listen to a bunch of speakers, but we're coming together to bring all that brain power and brain trust to walk away with tangible steps that we can take with us to make a difference. So we're not just at a summit, we are summiting. So summiting, we're summiting right now. And if I were to share one of the situations where I had to use that breakthrough mentality, if you can imagine flying 300 feet over the desert floor. It's over 120 degrees. Our attack helicopter section had been out for a little over an hour. So we only had about 20 minutes of gas left and only one missile left on our aircraft. At the end of this mission, we heard this voice come across the radio. He said, Viper, we have Marines and soldiers in trouble, pinned down, and they need your attack helicopter section north of the cemetery. Now, if you could have felt the acid bomb explode inside of my stomach. Why? Because we only had 20 minutes of gas left. That's not a lot of time to get up to the north of the cemetery, execute an attack, and get back to base. But when your brothers and sisters are in trouble, you answer the call, right? Absolutely. So you are now inside of this cockpit of this attack helicopter with me. We head up to the north of the cemetery. We turn that selector switch over to that very last missile. And this missile, unfortunately, was known to be a little bit unreliable, especially in the vicinity of troops and friendly forces. When we got on station, we checked in with the Marines and soldiers on the ground. You hear a voice come back that says, Viper, we're pinned down. We don't have any ammunition to shoot back with. We don't even have any green smoke to mark our position. Let me know when you can see the glint from my mirror. Now, as you scan down into that cemetery, you're searching for any sign of friendly forces in life. And for those of you who've been in the military, you already know when you get down to looking for a glint from a mirror, we're in trouble. As you search in that cemetery, you see that small glint come back, and you say, "Contact, I see you." You say, "Viper." Do you see that road in front of me running from east to west? Follow it to the west. You're going to come to a road that runs north and south. Follow it to the south. You're going to see a couple of buildings with a tower sticking out of it, with a blue dome at the top. Call when you contact that building. You followed that first road to the west. You saw that next road headed south. You saw a couple buildings, couple towers, blue dome. Contact. "Break right, break right," you quickly yell out. Why? Because now small arms fire is coming out of that tower, trying to take you out of the sky. Now pause for a moment. How many times have you been sitting at your desk, viciously knocking down the email in your inbox or on your Crackberry? An enemy popped up right in front of you, right? It happens. Sometimes you need to break off, think about what you're going to do, come back around, and re-engage. And that's exactly what you did on this particular day. You broke off to the right. You flew out over the flat desert floor. You came back up over the ridge, making sure that last missile was selected and armed and ready to go. You popped up over the ridge. You are now searching for your target. Target in sight. Aircraft pops up. Your fingers on the trigger, waiting to come in range. "Missile away," you call out. Nothing happens. Marines and soldiers on the ground in trouble. You quickly communicate, essential element when we're in these types of situations. You communicate with the rest of your crew and the aircraft behind you. You reset your weapon system, turn that selector switch back over to that missile for one last try. Why was it your last try? In a few precious moments, you'd be too close for the missile to be able to come off and impact the target, and you didn't have enough fuel to come back around. You pull that trigger. Missile comes off the rail, impacts the target. Jason in the back seat shoots all 26 rockets. We pull off to the right. We head back to base. We land almost out of gas, completely out of ammo. We could already hear the voices coming from the tent. We run over to the ready room. We say, "The Marines and soldiers, what happened with the mission?" I said, "Ma'am, the target was destroyed. The mission was accomplished. The Marines and soldiers will be coming home tonight." Breakthrough mentality. And again, all the hands that we just had raised in this room, to me, it solidifies breakthrough mentality in what it is essential to one mission, one goal, one team. We're all in this together. Whether you're at NASA, the IRS, or Department of Treasury, Department of Defense, EPA, NOAA, we could go on with the acronyms, right? But no matter where we are from, we're all doing the same thing to accomplish that mission, and we're one team together, our national security and the future of our nation. That's why we're here, and that's why we do what we do. We're not just sitting at a desk 8 hours a day, but what we do essentially matters to what happens to us down the road. This is one of my favorite pictures. I call this my diversity slide. Yeah. So everything laying on the ground in front of this attack helicopter can be utilized, right? Now, not at the same time, but depending on the mission that we're called out to do, depends on what we load up onto that aircraft. Now, this is actually the upgrade that's going to be coming out. It has 4 blades at the top, 4 in the back, and the glass cockpit on the inside. Very sexy aircraft compared to the one that I flew, which was very capable, but really brought a lot of Vietnam technology along with it. I know we have some Raytheon folks and Lockheed Martin. A lot of their equipment is inside of this aircraft, so just from me to you, end user, I want to say thank you for doing what you do as well. A lot of the technology in this audience that are here. So depending on the mission that this aircraft has been called out to do, depends on what it loads up. Now let's take this one step further. I'm going to demonstrate. All right, you got that? On the count of 3, we're all going to do that together. 1, 2, 3. All right, come on, IT. One more time. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah. Did you feel that? All right, now you're ready. You are that attack helicopter. And all of your talents, gifts, skills, work experience, innovative ideas are all a part of you, and all the armament laying out in front of you, just waiting to be loaded up for that next mission that you're being called to do. This summit, coming together, we're asking for some of those best and brightest ideas. What do we have to do to take this forward to the next level? Let's take it one step further. That attack helicopter is IT. It's NASA. It's NOAA. It's the EPA. It's federal IT. And we are the bombs, bullets, missiles, just waiting to be loaded up. However we fit in that puzzle of that mission of what we're being called to do. But how do we bring forth those breakthrough ideas, that breakthrough technology? And I like to say it takes a breakthrough mentality to take us forward and create the innovative breakthroughs. Also, it's refusing to settle, even in the smallest moments. Refusing to settle in the smallest moments. What do we have to do to break down, break up, break through, break free, right, to get to the other side? Folks ask me, how did you end up being an attack helicopter pilot anyway? I said, easy, quick story. It all started out at the age of 4. I wanted to be a police officer that rode a horse downtown. That's right, the mounted patrol. At the age of 6, I got my very first pony. I'm like, yes, I am halfway there. Little did I know, right? As I go through my years of school and I'm riding that little pony, I knew one of the other things I wanted to do was be in the band. I wanted to play anything in the brass section, loud and obnoxious, right? And I settled on the trombone, and I was excited. And I came home, and I went up to my mom. I was like, Mom, I want to play the trombone. And she's like, oh, baby, the trombone, but you don't want to get that little ring around your lips, do you? I said, Mom, the trombone is cool. She said, well, baby, what's your best friend Tracy playing? I said, Mom, Tracy is playing the flute. I am not playing the flute. She got excited. She's like, oh, baby, well, if you play the flute and I play the flute, it'd be like the girls' club. Mom, I am not playing the flute. So when I went to band practice, what instrument case did I have? The flute. We must have a lot of parents in here. I'd go into that band room every day. I'd throw that flute case on my chair. I'd run over to the trombone sections, and I'd go over to Johnny, because Johnny always let me play his trombone. And I played for a couple moments, and I'd go back over to my section, pick up my flute, band practice would start. One day, my brother and I were walking around in our garage. Well, let me use walking very cautiously. I don't know if your garage looks like mine did when I was a kid, but you could not park a car in there, right? My dad called it treasure. My dad called it treasure. My mom called it junk. And that reminds me, Charlie said I had to explain the call sign, right? We'll do that kind of towards the end. Junk. That's a good one. So as we were walking around, treasure hunting, crawling over boxes, looking in different boxes, because you never knew what you would find. My dad was always adding to the collection. Well, one day I was looking at the edges of the garage, and I saw this black case. And I said, oh, that looks like it could be a musical instrument. I go over to it, I open it up, bright, shiny trombone inside. I'm like, oh my God. I pull it up, I put it together, I'm looking for the mouthpiece, no mouthpiece. I start playing it anyway. Like, can you imagine some of the sounds coming out of that thing? Well, I would play it every chance I could get. One day my dad heard me. We're talking about 3-tour Vietnam, Marine, Korean War vet. My dad didn't play. And he said, Vernice, put that thing away. That is a valuable musical instrument. But Dad, put it away. And when my dad said something, that was it. So I only played it when he wasn't at home. I move on to high school. I get to the brand new band room, and I walk in, and the first thing I look for is that trombone section. I look around and there are no trombones anywhere. I go up to Mr. Ryan. I say, Mr. Ryan, where are the trombones? And he said, oh, Vernice, it's a young program. We don't have any trombones yet. And I was like, what? No trombone? Mr. Ryan, I can play trombone in the band. He said, he laughed a little. He said, Vernice, you play the flute. I said, I know, but we have one in our garage. That's when he really started laughing. Then he saw I was serious, and he said, okay, I'll make a deal with you. Take lessons, practice. I'll give you an audition. If you are good enough, you'll earn a seat in the band. I said, great. I get home, I wait for mom and dad. Of course, they are late this particular evening. It's dark by the time they get home. I see the headlights pulling up into the driveway. I run outside. Mom, Dad, Mr. Ryan says I have to play the trombone. I explain everything to them, and they say, all right, Vernice, fine, you can play the trombone. We go up to the music store, we get a couple books, couple mouthpieces, come back, and I grab that trombone staged right inside the front door. Head upstairs in my room on this side of the house. They stay downstairs and go to the other side of the house. And I started practicing that night. And I practiced every single day. A couple months later, Mr. Ryan gave me that audition. He said, wow, great. Where'd you take your lessons? It's like, well, sir, I didn't take any lessons. He said, well, how did you learn how to play? I said, well, I taught myself. We bought a couple books, and I practiced every day. He's like, you've absolutely won a seat in the band. 6 months later, I made the All-West Honor Band. The next year, I made the All-State Honor Band, the All-State Orchestra, All-State Jazz Band, and the Memphis Youth Symphony Orchestra. That would not have happened on the flute. But, you know, I think about life as that big garage, because that experience really taught me a lot, and that passion has a lot to do with what we do and how we do it and how productive we are when we're doing it as well. And as we are all walking around in this huge garage of life, crawling over these boxes of, I like to say, boxes of opportunity, are we opening them up? Are we looking for the treasure inside? Are we looking on the periphery of the garage, and do we see that black case? Do we go over and find out there's a bright, shiny trombone inside, take it out and start playing it, even though it doesn't have a mouthpiece? And do we get the mouthpiece and give ourselves the lesson and teach ourselves how to play? Because one thing I've learned more than any other is opportunities don't go away. Other people take advantage of them. Somebody was going to play trombone in that garage. And I also learned you have to make your break. Sometimes we have to create our own opportunities. But what I've learned more than anything is that everyone has a trombone in their garage. As I walked around this summit the last couple of days, actually this morning, I was out getting a pastry. And I do talk a lot, I have to admit, I do. And I'm getting a pastry, and I start talking to the gentleman next to me, and I was like, well, how are you enjoying the conference so far? Are you having a good experience? And he's like, well, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm enjoying myself. I was like, great. And, you know, we had a little chat for a second. I said, well, what do you do in the IT world? Like, how are you a part of this conference? He said, well, actually, I was a speaker on Monday. I said, oh, one of the speakers. I was like, well, I apologize. I wasn't here for all of the sessions. And he says, well, I'm the Chief Innovation Officer for Dell. I was like, oh, yeah. But it's just so neat. And then after that, we talked about, you know, some of the things that are on the leading edge and where he saw technology going as far as interfacing computers and how we interact with them and what some of the capabilities are that they'll be able to do. But just to be able to walk around meeting different peers, colleagues, who knows what conversation you have and what idea, what innovation can come out of that collaboration, right? Out of just a small conversation. So I would urge you here today, not just to get a card and not just to think about this as networking and what can I do, but truly, how can we collaborate together to foster that true spirit of innovation and making IT stellar in the federal government, right? So I go on through high school, I get to college, and I know that I want to go to school. My parents didn't have any money to send me to school. I didn't have any money either, so I went on student loans, right? But a college freshman still likes to hang out and recreate, right? That's the word we made up, recreate. I see this flyer on the wall. It said free trip to Mardi Gras. I was like, oh my God. I get closer. And at the bottom it says, all you had to do was join Women's ROTC rifle team. I said, no, that is not for me. A couple seconds later, I thought about it. Sign me up. I joined the team. We had an amazing experience, practicing every day. And after 3 months, we head down to Mardi Gras, New Orleans, for the big, easy party in the sky. 7 days full of marching and parades and uninterrupted, unadulterated partying. Out of those 7 days, I got 30 minutes chaperoned downtown. But I did, again, learn something out of that one, that you have to prepare for your passion. If I wasn't where I wanted to be, what did I need to do to get there? And I thought I'd found a strategic advantage, something I could leverage to help me clear that gap. That was the military. I wanted to be a cop. You can't be a cop until you're 21. I was 18. The military, discipline, order, structure, physical fitness, everything I felt that could help me get into police academy, excel in police academy, and maybe even save my butt once I got out on the streets. And I know we're on a shorter time frame here today. I love my little cop story, but I eventually did make it to be a police officer. And if we talk about the riding the horse downtown, I rode a Harley Davidson 1350 Road King, steel horse, right? So sometimes we have to innovate, the idea a little bit, say, okay, steel horse, that works for me. But had a fantastic experience on the force. But after a couple of years being on the force, one thing that happened to me while I was in college is I saw a black woman in a flight suit. It was career day. We were walking around. My battle buddy was on an aviation contract. I wanted nothing to do with aviation either. I wanted to do anything where you could shoot a gun or blow something up. Around 12:30, she got a little tired of walking around to artillery, Delta Force, sniper platoon, pretty much everything women could not do. And she said, Armour, can we please go to the aviation tent now? Fine. Black people don't even fly. Now, we know that's not true, right? Tuskegee Airmen, Bessie Coleman, Willa Brown, one of my true mentors, Charlie Bolden, amazing. He was actually my very first commanding general when I got to the fleet. And I got to see him on Monday and hang out for a little bit. Just when you have people like that in your life that help you out along the way, it's really cool. And well, this is NASA, Mae Jameson, one of my mentors as well. They're just so down to earth. And those of you all that have met them know what I'm talking about. And they're willing to do anything to help. Well, after a couple of years being on the force, seeing that woman in the flight suit, because for me it was the tangibility of the possibility. I could see her, touch her, talk to her, ask her questions. It wasn't MTV or BET. It was my reality, and it was real. If we think about some of the ideas and thoughts that the people in this room have had, that have gone from an idea to a blueprint or an image on a computer to tangible reality. Absolutely amazing. The ripple effect, the legacy that is leaving behind. This right here is a picture of me in my combat gear, getting ready to go out on another combat mission. If you all remember that point in the war where it was the road to Baghdad, we were still invading, heading north. Our division was heavily supporting the Marines and soldiers on the ground during that road north. And I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to take a picture of this hangar, steel reinforced, concrete, bomb-proof, I might add, hangar built by the French for the Kuwaitis, and yes, they are currently in litigation. Didn't quite hold up. But that woman in the flight suit planted a strong seed in me. Today, I am in full bloom. What seeds are we planting? We already know about a lot of the seeds that we've planted. Look at all of the innovation that was brought forth through NASA for the program that are now luxuries that we have in civilian life, right? Amazing what we do that impacts the world that we live in. So I leave the police force because I said, you know, I can always be a cop or go to the FBI, the DEA, something like that, but I won't always have the opportunity to be a combat pilot. Now, I am going to get in trouble for this, and I know it, but Linda, Karen, Lula, I'm going to say it now. So get me afterwards. Folks said, well, you were already in the Army. Why'd you go into the Marine Corps? I said, well, you know, I was looking for the next challenge. I'd already been in the Army. That automatically cancels out the Navy and the Air Force. No, I'm kidding. I know we have a couple Marines in the audience, all right? Hoorah. Yeah, okay, there we go. It's like, don't leave me hanging. No, honestly, my grandfather was a Marine, Mumford Point, enlisted in 1942, World War II, Guadalcanal in Panama. And my dad, 3 tours of Vietnam, Korean War, Marine as well. So I wanted to be 3rd generation Marine Corps. So it wasn't about the other stuff, even though I know people will kid me after that. But it was truly about the legacy and what I could do to continue that on. And for me, it was amazing to be able to carry on the family name and, again, that legacy of something that our family has accomplished. And it's been an amazing blessing to me ever since. It's been one of the funnest rides that I've had. Walking across that parade deck with United States Marine across my chest and being a police officer, I have to say we're the top. If I have 1, 2, 3, it's 2 and 3. The proudest thing that I am proud for was, you know, my mom. She's awesome. So I head down to flight school. I go through a year and a half. I get winged on July 21st, Pensacola Wings of Gold. I'm excited. I head out to Camp Pendleton, California. Can I get that chair over there? Jeez. I head out to Camp Pendleton, California, and I am riding north on the I-5. I have the radio on, and I hear the voice say that the Pentagon has now been struck. If I were to ask anyone in the room right now, they probably remember where they were and what they were doing when they heard the news. Whether you heard it, saw it, someone related to you, where you were when you found that out. I was on my way in my flight suit to go train on how to fly the aircraft I would eventually fly into combat. When I got to that ready room, I walked in and all the pilots were standing, staring intensely at the television, watching the events of the day unfold. We knew there wouldn't be any flying that day or for several days to come, but one thing we knew for sure was that we'd be going somewhere soon. Less than 365 days later, I found myself flying over 300 feet above the desert in the middle of Iraq, supporting the men and women on the ground. Very humbling experience. The war raged on. The war stopped. Things slowed down. Then our lead tactics instructor said, all right, we're going to have a test. We're going to have a tactics test. And I said, whoa, wait a minute, sir. I haven't been studying. I'm in combat, you know, flying. He said, armor, we're going to have a test. I said, but sir, I'm going up in Iraq. I'm not going to be here for 4 days. I'm going to be gone. He said, armor, we're taking the test when you get back. I said, okay, I got it. Packed up my tactical manual, which was about that thick, my safety manual, which was about that thick, several other manuals, threw them in my attack helicopter, headed up into Iraq to do what I called studying for the next 4 days. Got back and sat in a room something like this. 15 minutes into it, I wasn't doing so hot. The next day, confirmed. I had bombed. And I was devastated because there were so many people watching exactly what I did. Kind of like this flight suit right now. I felt like things were just falling apart because so many people were looking at what I did, taking stock of my performance, whether academic or in the aircraft, tests, whether it was an instructor talking to me. I felt like I'd let so many people down. I felt like I'd let women down. I felt like I'd let black folks down. I felt like I'd let the Marine Corps down, my family down, myself down. But more than anything, I felt like I'd let those guys in the squadron down. who didn't see the true potential of what I or any other woman or minority could do. You know, when folks said America's first African-American female combat pilot, wow, that must feel great, right? I said, it's very humbling. To whom much is given, much is required. That means there are so many things that I'm going to need to do and have to do because there are so many people following behind me. Now, I passed that test the next week with flying colors, but that wasn't the point. I didn't pass it the first time, and I really felt accountable for passing the first time when it really, really mattered. So I continue on in the squadron, and things go okay, and I head out to Quantico, Virginia to do my headquarters tour with the Marine Corps. Oh, wait a minute, one thing. Definitely can't forget this. Ladies, help me out. You got to accessorize, right? Okay. Head out to Quantico, Virginia for my headquarters tour. I'm working as a diversity officer for Headquarters Marine Corps. And I'm sitting in the car one night talking to my bud. She'd been in the Marine Corps for over 26 years. Wasn't a thing I could tell her or talk to her about that she wouldn't understand. And I started talking about some of the things that bogged me down a little bit. Outside of that car, I would have felt like I was whining. But inside of that car, it was the moment to get some things off my chest, to release, a time to just let some things go. You know, after a couple of years, several years, things kind of feel like they get a little heavy. And it felt good just to talk to someone that I knew would understand. And I got to that tactics test. I said, had I only passed that tactics test, I'd have been that test pilot, I'd have been training that guy in the front seat, I would be back in Iraq right now with the rest of my squadron. Because when you fail a tactics test, they just don't put you on the fast track, right? But I thought about it and I said, you know, I would be back in Iraq right now. I wouldn't be here to have found the passion that I wanted to do when I was going to conferences like this. And I said, you mean they get paid to speak? What? Well, I do that now for the Marine Corps. Or building those relationships that I would carry on probably for the rest of my life. Or being at home when my dad was diagnosed with terminal bone cancer, when sometimes I wasn't able to visit. I was able to visit over 6 times that one year. When times I couldn't visit Thanksgiving or Christmas because I was thousands of miles away. I wouldn't have been there when my mom called me one Wednesday afternoon and said that Dad was back in the hospital for routine blood work and her birthday was on Saturday and she wanted to know if I could come home. I said, well, Mom, you know, I've already come home 6 times. Things are really high up tempo right now. My boss is not letting anyone travel. I can't come home for your birthday. She was a little sad. You know how you can hear it in someone's voice when they hang up the phone? She hung up the phone. I immediately bought a ticket on Travelocity. Then I went into my boss's office. Sir, I got to go home. I already bought a ticket. He did not laugh, but he did let me go home. So I headed home. I walked in the door Saturday morning. My mom was like, oh, baby, happy birthday. It was so good. You know, we were just excited. Then we headed up to the hospital. We got there around 2 o'clock. My dad was excited to see me. And he was like, oh, wow, it's your mom's birthday. It's so good to see you. I'm glad you came home. My dad was my American hero, my favorite Marine. By 6:07, Dad had passed away. Les Brown has an amazing saying. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame. There were so many times I had regretted failing that tactics test. That night in that car, I finally got it. Failing that tactics test put me in the room that day with my dad. Given the chance to change anything about that tactics test or some of the things I went through in that tour, wouldn't change a single thing. Because that tactics test put me here in this room with you today, breathing this same air. Now, I wouldn't fail a tactics test in the future, but I wouldn't do anything about that one in the past. And failure is something that is almost a necessity. Think of the scientists who are trying to find the cure for cancer. It's a process of elimination. I was talking to Harold earlier. He's in here somewhere. He said it's all about problem solving. How do we solve the problem to move on to the next challenge and problem? It took me 3 submissions to get into the Marine Corps. I failed the flight test the first time and took it again. I heard LaDonna Gatlin say, failure is fertilizer. If you think of some of the projects and programs we've had going on, and we heard our CIO talk about some of the failures we've had, but we're going to be able to do some amazing things out of those failures because of the lessons learned in this very near immediate future. Why did I change my clothes? Because, folks, life is all about transition. Everything that was in this flight suit is now in this flight suit. And notice I'm wearing something that looks a lot more like what you're wearing. We're all in our flight suits, and we're all taking off. Where we fly, now that's up to us, right? But we can go, I like to say, who needs a runway? You're a sexy helicopter. Take off from where you are. You already got there, down. We're good. So how do we and the federal government in general is going through a lot of transition, let alone NASA with the orbiter. We only have 2 launches left. And I was lucky enough to see STS-121. Stephanie invited me down. What an amazing experience. I can't leave here without, the zero to breakthrough. Did you see that and that's the title of my next book. I gave that analogy to someone who was helping me work out my how do you say what you do in one line. After 3 hours of talking, I said, okay, Ellen, you basically got the gist of me. Just imagine, if I could wrap up the essence, the space shuttle sitting on the launch pad at 0, nothing's happening, then the smoke starts billowing, the ground starts shaking, and you don't know whether it's 5 feet off the ground or 20 feet off the ground, but it is taking off. Next thing, 91 seconds later, it's orbiting the Earth. And she said, well, Vernice, if you think about it, not to say that being a police officer is nothing, but you went from 0 to breakthrough. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. So NASA has a very special story for me as well, from having friends that are part of the program, and the administrator now who is heading up the program, but that 0 to breakthrough mentality. What do we have to do to go from where we are to where we want to be? And the folks in this room have the ideas that are going to take us there. It's about the team. This is Miska Cartwright here with me. We're on the Syrian border. That's her aircraft behind us, the Huey. Some of you might be familiar with it. I had been out flying night missions for about 3 months, so her crew's out to replace mine. That's why I'm smiling bigger than she is. But it's about that team. This is my contact information. I would love to stay connected with you. I don't want just a card. Even though I'd love to get your card, I'll be outside signing books after this program. But if we can stay connected, if there's some way that I can be of service to you to help your organization, whether it's a similar keynote to this or a leadership program or even diversity, which was my last thing with the Marine Corps, I'd love to be able to talk to you about that. VerniceArmour.com. And yes, I do tweet. I'm not a twit, but I do tweet. This is just a cool picture of me in the helicopter. Every pilot has one. That's the machine that took me into battle safely and brought me back out. It did not fare as good as I did. Sometimes it came back with bullet holes, but it kept me from getting them. So, an amazing machine. Notice it has 2 blades at the top, vice the other picture that had 4. One of the cool experiences I've had the opportunity to have, right? And there are some postcards that they'll be handing you as you walk out, as well if you want me to sign those for some of the kids, or if you all have mentoring programs. I know we have a lot of STEM initiatives going on, so I'd be happy to help that with you. Getting the information out there and sharing what we do with the next generation is one of the most important messages that we can continue to take on. One mission, one goal, one team. I'm headed in my Jeep Wrangler up north on the I-5. I just gotten back from a deployment, so the top is down. I'm in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and there are fumes everywhere. It is so good to be home. But I decided if I'm going to be here, I might as well go up on the Pacific Coast Highway, right? Any of you familiar with Southern California, Pacific Coast? There we go. So I knew, at least over there, I'd see the waves rolling in, white puffy clouds, the sway of the palm trees, the breeze on my cheek. It truly was good to be home. I finally got to work, shuffled around some papers, did what I call working for a couple of minutes, headed up to the hospital for a routine doctor's appointment. And I'm standing in line doing what I love to do. Anyone figured that out yet? Yeah, why does every audience always get that? Talking to the Marine in front of me, and I said, "Hey, Marine, how you doing? What's going on?" He said, "Well, ma'am, I'm just here for, physical therapy." I said, "Physical therapy? What happened?" He said, "Well, I have some shrapnel in my left leg." I said, "Whoa, shrapnel? Were you recently deployed?" He said, "Yes, ma'am, 11th MEU, Iraq." I said, "Hey, wait a minute. I was on the 11th MEU. I was your Cobra air support." He's like, "Oh, ma'am, you fly Cobras?" We were in the cemetery, pinned down. A Cobra came in, shot a missile. I said, "Whoa, wait a minute. That sounds like a mission I was on." Paired it up, same mission, same aircraft, same missile. And we started jumping, "Woo-hoo! Yeah, screaming and yelling." And we were not in the psych ward yet. Then he stopped, and he stood there, and he looked at me. And he said, "Ma'am, you saved my life." Wow. One mission, one goal, one team. The things that we are doing right now are all for this, that next generation. This is a young lady that is getting an academic award in the summer program, and I just thought it really crystallized everything for why I do what I do, and for a lot of you, why you do what you do. Because it's really not about us, but about that next generation. The technologies that we're using today, many of them started so long ago, and we're building the foundation for the hundreds of years to come. Absolutely amazing. Like, what did we do before we even had servers that went down? Now if the server goes down, you might as well leave work. Yeah, all right, see you tomorrow. It's all about that next generation. The acknowledging the obstacles but not giving them power, taking it to the next level. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So how do we keep moving and staying focused? That self-leadership, that accountability, that breakthrough mentality to make IT stellar for the federal government. I like to say it's breakthrough time, and we have to use that breakthrough mentality. So on the count of 3, if you would all say it with me, breakthrough to win in 2010. Thank you so much. I appreciated being here with you today. Thank you.